KILLA podcast. KILLAofficial.com.
THTC, the UK's leading ethical streetwear label. Organically grown and ethically built garments from hemp, organic cotton, and other sustainable materials. 2019 is their 20th anniversary year. Join me with THTC as a KELA podcast sponsor celebrating music, social activism, hemp, and street culture. THTC, eco-fashion redefined since 1999.
KELA Sweet 16 streaming across all music platforms now. Featuring 16s from Tina Kamau, Orifice, Volgatron, Foreign Beggars, Marga, Bob Villain, Illerman, and Trigger. The sounds of KELA Sweet 16s streaming now.
AG Dentistry. In my line of work, not only does what I do with the mouth get reviewed, it's also my instrument. And it's beyond important to me that my teeth get the professional service they deserve. The AG family provide expert dentistry, whether it's NHS or cosmetic. They're the finest in London. Head over to agdentistry.co.uk for more information on treatments and prices. AG Dentistry. Beatbox created. And we're here to talk about world music and street culture.
KILLA podcast.
Should we jump into it then?
Should it?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the KELA podcast, live and direct to Central. As you know what it is, you know what time it is. Subscribe, do not sleep. I repeat, do not sleep on my repeat. I'm very fortunate because I'm a fan and they've come through. 2020 finest, Gove, Jay, the mighty Ivy Lab inside the ride.
What's up?
How are we?
Good, man. You well?
You good?
Cool.
Staying out of trouble? We out of trouble at the moment?
Just about.
Yeah?
Yeah, trying to keep out of trouble as much as we can.
Good.
We're not very troublesome people, really.
No.
We're pretty boring people.
It's the production life, isn't it? Like in the lab.
I'd love to say we're more exotic than that.
Yeah.
But you know.
As the name suggests, Ivy Lab are like the future bass music producers, man. Like fuck, like to even begin to explain their techniques and sounds is this podcast. So let's fucking jump into it. So I guess with studio life, yeah, you ain't really too fussed about any weather or anything like that. It must be like deep in the trenches, recording and getting busy, making beats.
Yeah, I like this time of year for making beats. When it's hot and sunny outside, there's always that. Well, if you've got a window, you always look out and feel a bit like, oh, guilty for not getting out. But this is a pretty productive time at the minute for making beats.
Yeah.
I feel so.
I mean, this weekend is particularly true to that. It was beautiful and sunny, at least out east, for both Saturday and Sunday, but every step out the front door was horrendous. So I didn't feel too guilty about giving 12 hours a day to my computer just to make music and take some space from it.
Either one of us is usually kind of in a productive mode with beats, and then the other one's doing sort of all of the other stuff that goes along with running the label and the club night and whatnot. And I guess that's part of the benefit of being a group or two of us, because you keep things ticking along and you kind of take it in turns. He's writing beats and you know.
There was three of you, right? There was three before.
Yeah,
there was three of us up until last year. So.
More or less this time last year.
Yeah.
Lawrence left the group.
That's the one.
And Jay and I carried on the mantle.
It's a mad one, isn't it? When you kind of go through the delegation process, and naturally, all being well, everyone takes their seats and they know what they're doing and they're happy to do it. They like doing it. But with all the different things you've got to do as an artist or a production or anything full stop, is like that labour intensiveness, the delegation, the things. Man, you ain't going to see daylight, because if you're not doing one thing, you're doing another. And you know, so no matter how much people you got on board, it's so hard to kind of.
Certainly, the higher the number of people, the harder it is in the absence of a kind of fixed manager type person. The harder it is to actually delegate. Sort of effectively, you know. Yeah,
I feel that.
So, but I think, you know, we fall into roles pretty slickly, really. I think we know what each other's going to do and sort of make space for that pretty effectively.
Yeah, it's good. You got enough. There's two of you.
We have to be. We have to be like that. Otherwise, the bureaucracy just drags you down. You spend the whole time trying to work out what you should do as opposed to actually doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, you have to have those conversations and keep them flying. We're lucky, man. When there's three of us, we have those conversations flying. When there's two of us, we have those conversations flying.
How many times do you like sit there and like together? Like, this is out of pure curiosity. How often do you guys sit down together with the books open? You're like, okay, let's talk about this week. Is this
more than we do anything else? Probably.
Really?
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we're really serious about the way we run our businesses, and I think part of that is because we feel that at some point in time in the future, our businesses have the potential to be as much of a spokesperson for our musical beliefs as our own music is. And we want to service those businesses as much as possible because, you know, we feel as if there's work to be done, there's inroads to be made, there are audiences who need to be connected with music that they already have a natural predisposition to being into but haven't found someone to share it with them, and we want to do a good job about being involved in that process.
That's it.
So we're okay at it now, like we're okay, but we want to be really good at this. You know what I mean? I want to be what Peanut Butter Wolf is to Stones Throw, or you know.
So you're really you're hatching like a scene within a scene. You're carving like you've got a lane and you're rolling that lane, and you clearly picking up speed, but what you're saying is that you want to be the masters of that, and you want to be able to like bring people in at a good rate.
I'm not sure we want to be masters.
The go-to for a certain level.
Like we want to be amongst the bunch of gatekeepers. We're not going to be the masters. We're not going to be like the real important figures. I'm sure, because I think that revolves around having, I guess, a level of grandiose ambition that maybe isn't quite in keeping with how we see things. We just want to be really good at a specific side of things and not have too many massive blue sky ambitions.
So I mean, part of it is about making sure the peers around you who are pushing to do what you do are nurtured and successful ultimately as well, because for the scene to be at a point that you want it to be, it's the people around you who operate that need to be successful as well. It's not that we just want to be the only ones doing it, you know.
But
it's a scene, isn't it? You got to kind of nurture that and build with it.
We are
and help
working
out people where you can.
Ivy Lab to a newer extent, but 2020 since its inception is born around the assumption that there is going to be a coming together between hip hop and electronic music that has not really happened so far and revealed its full potential.
Oh, that's cool,
right?
Yeah.
And
truth.
I think there is. I think there is a truth to it, and I think electronic music is really good at cross-pollinating with other genres. Hip hop is pretty good at it as well, in a way that, you know, lots of other types of music aren't very good at sort of messing around with each other. They're both designed to work with each other a little bit more. The whole trap drum machine thing for the last 10 years is kind of playing into that anyway, right?
It's going in that.
You know, very electronic sounds have dominated what hip hop is about, but electronic composition has not dominated hip hop at all. And electronic composers have some pretty wild ideas. And I think there's some rappers who are like, yeah, we can mess with these wild ideas. Let's not even just sit down and drop an 8-bar loop that just loops for 3 minutes and us just do our thing. These guys like to go to town with how they actually produce and sculpt their song and manipulate things and
with the vocalist,
mess with voices. I tell you a great example of this, right? Is Smoke Purp, right?
Yeah.
Have you heard how he well, I guess it's probably more murder on that last album they did, but the amount of reverb and distortion on just the ad libs. It's a really amazing aesthetic that's in the background of all these tunes, really distorted, reverby ad-libs.
Distorted reverb.
Yeah, and I think distorted first, then reverb put on it afterwards really pushed the vocals, and I think what that reveals is there are more rappers now who've got a willingness to see their voices fucked with. I'm sure before they'd be like, yeah, drop a bit of reverb on there, make me sound nice, DS me, whatever. Yeah. I'm sure now the proportion of rappers you could walk into a studio with and be like, listen, I'm going to pitch your voice down, I'm going to double it up with this kind of little alien thing in the background, then mix them all together and make it really distant in the mix. And then more people would be like, cool, I'll fuck with that.
And they fuck with that,
That's a very electronic idea about how to make music.
Yeah.
You know? Like, there's not tons of other forms of music that put that much thought into destroying or the timbre of a voice to make it into a new distinct instrument.
That's so sick, isn't it?
Electronic is so sick at doing that. Yeah. Like, once all these rappers get their heads around, you know what? These electronic boys can do some crazy shit with my voice. Not even just the beats that they're sitting under, the stuff that we can do to their voices. They're gonna be like, okay, like there's some new
That's
new stuff
right, yeah.
that's going to get made.
I guess the other interesting thing at the minute is we started working with a vocalist who actually said that he was into us sending something that had already had at least a partial arrangement to it, and then he'd write to that arrangement, as opposed to like you provide a loop and then you ask for like your verse, and then you go away and perhaps start to arrange it out afterwards, perhaps quite a linear way. Because I think he was like resonating off the idea that there'd been some kind of thought put into an arrangement of a track as an electronic piece of music that he would then find it easier to write to because the structure was there.
Yeah, because we can't
really seen before.
We can't help ourselves when we're making demos for rappers. We should just like lay down a cool idea that loops out for a minute and they can go and run with.
Yeah.
But we're impatient and we come from the electronic world, so our instinct is to arrange out and compose the tunes. So we start putting in breakdowns and little turnaround ideas and playing with intensity and automation, and before you know it, you've arranged out like a pretty decent 2-minute sketch, which for us is just messing about, seeing what ideas we can throw on the page. We'd be sending it to people and they'd be like, yeah, we're going to change everything we do just to fit with what you've done, and by the way, what you've done can't be changed down the line.
Because that's mine now.
Exactly.
Which is good, right? Because the temptation.
That's
is to
my
keep
architecture
changing it,
right there. You can't go changing the plans after I built the 3rd floor.
Is that a change of attitude? That's a change of attitude, isn't it? Of technology and music, like and trusting the producers to know what they're doing, like in terms of arrangements and shit. Do you think there's an attitude to that nowadays with rappers?
Well,
there's vocalists.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say because we're so new to working with all of this, and I'd hate to try and presume what it was like in the past. But one thing I do know from speaking to people who are, I guess, in a similar position to us, but have been doing it for a little bit longer, is that the willingness to look around and play with ideas has definitely changed. And I don't know, like maybe it's a new thing, maybe it's not.
One of the first producers, I think, to echo an attitude change in the rap hip hop genre, with where rappers were concerned, was like Clams Casino, when he started messing that kind of sound with the ASAP Gang, and what he did on that first ASAP Rocky EP was just like, what?
Yeah,
it was such a good marriage, man.
Yeah, I think like
Clams is a big inspiration for sure.
He is, like, as far as I'm concerned. And I know this is of a narrow vision, but from the community that we come from, I think there are 2 big emo turning points. There's Clams and Burial, and they both represent the same. They both represent the same kind of thing. I think both of them, those are my 2 biggest moments in electronic music for the last 10 years, where I've sat down and gone, I really need to think about how this has been made and what it's channeling, because I want to channel some of it too. Not copy it, because I can't copy it. It's not in my nature to sit there and pick this apart. But the way I'm feeling right now, I need to know how I can make music that makes other people feel like that, because this is powerful, right? And so you're right. Someone like Clams is a really big turning point. I think Run the Jewels was a turning point.
Huge turning point.
Right? Because LP had been doing all this stuff for so many years, but unless you're a bit of an old hip-hop geek, and I guess I am from that era, you knew what that meant back in the day and what he was doing, but Run the Jewels just gave him that extra platform. And it helped normalize a few like weird ideas that people were cool with. Raider Clan did the same thing, right?
You're right about that. Everything that he was doing that was abstract suddenly became the norm in such a palatable way, because you had, Killer Mike. LP was already well versed in doing like classic rhymes, but he was also doing some way left rapping as well, like particularly with Company Flow and some of the instrumentals albums he put together.
It's his instrumentals that always killed me. I wasn't like a crazy fan as a rapper, but he was one of the first people who was out there who was making really weird instrumentals, and there's not really been enough of that. I think
listened to was it Fun Crusher Plus the other day, and because that was such a huge album for both of us, it was funny listening to it and thinking about just how similar it sounded to kind of a lot of the beats that we write at the moment.
Sorry,
the choice of
at the moment, bro, the amount of stuff that we're writing that sounds like it's taken from that era, that old kind of Anticon, like more or less, right? The old
Cannibal.
yeah,
Heavy snares that just, like, drop
heavy
down.
snares, distortion, and you know, there's a lot. The distortion thing. This could be the year of distortion.
I think so.
It really could be, because distortion is now. It could be. Distortion is such a thing in so many genres of music now.
But that's because, I mean, listen, when we get into the techie sort of stuff, but, you know, when you distort things and put things, it gives it its place within the mix, doesn't it? You know, if you've got a jumbled mix or something, you know, you can really, like, fuck with distortion to give it its own frequency and its own place in the mixes. You know?
Can. I think on just a, like... I think on just a sort of musical level or an emotional level, it's just tension.
Yeah.
Like the amount of distortion you put into a tune is going to help define how much tension there is in the track.
The energy.
Yeah, the amount of energy. And so, you know, it's not even about necessarily intensity. You could have a very calm track that is full of distortion and feels incredibly tense as a result.
Yeah.
But you can also have a very fast upbeat track that has got no distortion in it and just doesn't feel like it's got energy, but it doesn't have any tension. And tension is amazing, because tension is what leads you to listen to the next track on the album. You know, it's like I feel tense after this experience. I kind of not ready to walk away from it, just cliff edge. I'm going to carry on. So if you can master tension in your music, then you can get people to listen to a lot more of it in a consecutive period. And I think distortion is a really powerful, very easy, unsophisticated way of mastering that technique.
Yeah.
You know? So,
darling, that's so sick, yeah. That's so cool. Like, so your influences are like way across the board in terms of hip hop and rap and alternative, like Ninja Tune. Would you say is Ninja Tune out there too, or is it too early for you guys?
no,
I grew
Ninja...
up listening to a lot of music on Ninja Tune, like early like Wagon Christ, the Vibert records.
Yeah.
I think it'd be called Pest on Ninja Tune. And like a little bit of stuff that was released around then, and Warp Records and stuff.
Of course, yeah.
Like I came into what I was doing, listening to a lot of IDM and drill records, and like just your sort of Venetian snares and square pusher, and I don't know how reflected that is in the music that I'm writing now. I think a little bit in terms of
You've got to know your knowledge. You can't make something if you just... I don't know, that's my attitude anyway. It's like, no, you're
the bigger the melting pot of different types of music, obviously, the broader the range of styles you want to incorporate into the umbrella of hip hop or whatever it is, or beats that you're writing. And I think that's again about having two of us, like our tastes converge, and in terms of what we grew up listening to, what we listen to now, there's convergence, there's similarity, but there's also a lot of different shit that we like. And I think that's just always going to be beneficial, because it's going to create that bigger melting pot when it comes to the final
For
product,
real,
you know? Yeah.
That era is actually a bit of a blind spot for me. So at the point in time Mo Wax and Ninja Tune and stuff came into their ascendancy, I guess sort of post DJ Shadow, DJ Cam kind of era, which I was into. I liked all that stuff.
I remember Cam, yeah, man.
Cam was amazing.
Yeah, I remember him.
Right,
yeah.
Cam is really was really ahead of his time.
Yeah.
And or maybe not ahead of his time, but what he made was of such a high quality and so unique and unparalleled around him. There wasn't a lot of stuff that sounded like that.
For real.
But by the time that turned into its own kind of instrumental hip hop scene, I was so deep into drum and bass by that point that this era that Jay is talking about is actually a bit of a blind spot for me, and I was just really super focused into drum and bass. I think the thing that changed that for me was probably like RJD2, probably,
Yeah, I remember that,
right?
yeah,
You know, when RJD2 came around, he did stuff at AC Alone, and I was always a big Project Blowed fan and liked AC Alone and all that kind of stuff, and so that kind of pulled me back into it a little bit. But yeah, for a good 5-6 year period from late 90s, early 2000s, I kind of wasn't really listening to hip hop or instrumental hip hop or anything apart from drum and bass at all, really.
But that's great, because the dynamics between the two of you, this is, see, I mean, it's like the coming of minds and having like two different influences or two different, you know, you kind of fill in the blanks between each other.
Yeah.
You know?
I think, yeah, G listens to a lot more of, we were talking about some of this experimental kind of punk hip hop, and I get drip fed some beats and artists to check out, and I really enjoy it, but I don't tend to gravitate towards scoping it out. I spend a lot of time listening to like blogger hip hop, like Post Dilla, Knowledge, Orly, all of these type, Bandcamp bias,
Gotcha,
you know,
yeah, of course, yeah.
like soulful, just sample based kind of tripped out beats.
Yeah,
You know,
God, I know.
I that's what I normally gravitate towards to listen to. That's like my soul food. You know.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it, how that's suddenly become the alternative hip hop scene. When you think about like the raucous era and whatnot, they kind of, it's just one and the same thing. But like even that was cool. Like that had the indie hip hop backpacker kind of label to it as well. But to me, it's just like that's what hip hop is, isn't it? You know, that was it.
Beats is now, especially instrumental hip hop.
Yeah.
There's occasionally there's like rapper features, but a lot of the hip hop I listen to is instrumental hip hop.
Yeah.
I think the state of play since Dilla, I think, has been very, not all of it is super, but I think that's how it's defined, right? The post Dilla era, just because he had such a big splash on Beast producers.
Yeah, he was like the Nirvana of like rock. You know,
Yeah,
he just
so
changed the whole thing.
I've heard it referred to as that, but yeah, I listen to a lot of that kind of stuff at the minute.
Yeah, and we've chatted about the whole kind of no jumper scene.
Yeah.
It's always nice to like bump into somebody that's a City Morgue fan.
I love City Morgue,
It's
man.
fucking great.
We have an artist on our label who also works the label as well called Havelock, and he's a big City Morgue fan.
Damn, I need to meet this dude.
And and you know, for the most part, he sits there and listens to noise. Like he's into noise scene stuff. He's into really challenging, quite terrifying electronic music, and that's the angle that he approaches City Morgue from. He's not a hip hop fan, and well, he's a fan of hip hop.
He's a fan, but he hasn't studied it.
Yeah, he hasn't come from that, and actually, what draws him to that music isn't necessarily his hip hop sensibility. It's everything else that goes along with it. Whereas I'm drawn to it from a hip hop angle. I just want to see hip hop try and push itself into a new territory. And the first time all this shit came around as well, like mid-90s meeting of, I guess, new metal and rap, it was new metal moving on to hip hop territory. This is different.
Yeah, it's true.
This is hip hop moving on to metal territory. And the direction of travel really matters because you bring all your baggage with you when you're traveling somewhere. I think it's important that metal gets saddled with a load of hip hop baggage.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, because there's some cool shit that comes with hip hop baggage,
You know
right? Loads of interesting ideas and fashion and uniform.
The whole thing.
And language.
The whole thing.
There's so much that gets dragged along with you that actually I think metal could, or the rock guitar world, is going to benefit
100%.
a whole lot from the influx of these ideas.
Couldn't agree more. It's
Are you a horror fan?
massive horror.
Right? Okay, and horror always talk about how much they love Onyx. And I'm a big Onyx fan
me
as well.
too.
Right?
Me too. But
So-
it makes sense when you hear that stuff. And the same with Zilla Carmen. When you think about, okay, well, this is DMX. It's New York. It's that vibe. It's like the same anger and energy that you'd find in ODB
Yep.
is this, you know?
It's shouty and it's raw, and I feel very uncomfortable listening to it. And I actually don't care if it's real or not.
Yeah.
I really don't care.
I feel that.
I know these guys go out in their videos with their rocket launchers, and there's like heroin abuse and shit in some City Morgue videos. I feel really uncomfortable seeing it. But at the same time, I kind of view it, and I was like, wow, I feel like I want to know what your story is, and I want to know what the story of that person is, and the place that you come from, and feel like I just want to understand more about this.
Because you're more invested when you know the characters first.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of like...
But I don't know them, that's the point.
Yeah, and there's an anonymity
it's like,
there as well.
Exactly,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know you, but you're portraying such a vibrant, charismatic lifestyle that I don't know if I want to pass judgment on you yet. I just need to see more.
Yeah.
And maybe my judgment by the end of all of it is like, wow, this is horrible. But, you know, I'm hooked at this stage. You know, I'm trying to work out what I make of these people and where they come from.
Yeah.
And, you know, is it novel and artistic and interesting, or is it just really vulgar and damaging?
Maybe it's like
you
a
know?
precursor for something else. You know how these scenes have a moment of like complete...
Yes.
And then all of a sudden it kind of morphs into this thing. And I think what you're talking about, forward thinking, instrumental-based electronic... heavier electronic music that works with the vocalists. I think that's to come. Because like I'm a Thrax fan. I like Thrax. I know he's not like he's just like putting down these beats together and just like they have that.
Sure.
But I do appreciate the punk ethic, the punk ethos of it. You know what I mean? But it can't sustain. I don't think it could sustain unless his production values and quality went up.
I don't know. I mean, I've changed my thoughts a little about Thrax's production. The first time I checked out all the City Morgue stuff, and that he's done most of it, all of it.
Yeah, most of all.
Okay,
Yeah.
was in a car and I was like, this sounds really ropey. And before we started, we were talking about legibility, and I had some real issues, especially as the me understanding what he was saying. Sosa's gift, I could hear every word Sosa says perfectly.
Yeah.
Like, he can enunciate so well.
First Muller's like badass.
He's so good, man. Like, every single word, I hear exactly what he's saying. That's so valuable in this day and age.
Yeah.
And as time has gone by, I think their stuff has got better. Maybe it's been remastered, or maybe Thrax just sort of been sat in a room with a few people. It's like, by the way, that little ramp you've got in that EQ, that's not doing you any favours. Don't put that in your tracks going forward. He must have been around a whole bunch of people who've been like, okay, that's an interesting idea. Have you thought about this?
Yeah.
You only need 5 or 10 of those, and your music just goes up.
He has grown, hasn't he?
I think he's
developed. Yeah.
I think he's got better.
Do you think there's like a room for like producers to develop in an age where, particularly with like dance and electronic music, the output has to be almost like it's quicker than you make the shit. You know, it's got to be so quick. It's cookie cutter. It's like, or is your attitudes? Does your attitudes differ from that process?
What it needs to be, or how it is at the moment?
How it is at the moment. Do you have an opportunity to progress? Like, do you have enough time to think about it, or is it just like turn around?
It feels harder to build towards an end goal. You know, I don't think we've had climaxes that we've worked up to, and they've been quite predictable, like an album or a tour or the label launch.
Yeah.
Like, we had all these things we worked up to that gave us an end state that we were trying to achieve. That end state now is much smaller and but more frequent, and that's actually quite a tough thing to work out.
Elaborate. Give me an example of, you know, when you're in your schedule where that's come to light, where it's just like, well, they've done that. What is it? Is that, oh, we've done that, we've got to do more again? Like, you're double down.
2 years ago, our end state would have been to take all the music we've got and turn it into an album and put it out at the end of the year. The end state that we've got for this year, bearing in mind it's the beginning of the year, we're just putting our plans into place, or we're just rolling out our plans, is we're going to have a steady flow of music throughout the whole year.
Yeah, it's the way, innit?
Right? You're going to do a steady sort of 2-3 tracks frequently, and rather than maybe drop. So the model for Ivy Lab, I think, for almost 5 years was put out 5 tunes at the start of the year and put out 5 tunes at the end of the year. We did that. We did a Critical EP in January, which was almost all drum and bass, and then increasingly came sort of half and half drum and bass and the sort of electronic beat stuff we do. And then we'd do a kind of counterpoint at the end of the year, quite often like a 2020 thing. We did that for quite a while. This year, I don't think it's going to be about these 2 big splashes. It's about to be about like 5 medium-sized splashes instead, you know?
Just for consistency and to hang other things that you're doing around those activities, like touring and stuff. I guess you're able to do a lot more.
Maybe.
I want to start readying people for what's to come. I mean, we've just started working with more vocalists and rappers, like we've said, and so to introduce people to that idea and to almost drip feed it out, to ready people for what might end up being a longer play project, like an album, potentially the end of the year or into next year.
Yeah, so like get all of them towards the end of the year and almost compile them as a entire project.
Yeah, if that happens to be the most feasible thing that needs to be done at the end of the year, we'll do that. But the concept period for that is not going to be 6 months. It's going to be 6 weeks. It's like, you know what, we can put this together. We can do it quickly. Let's just put it together and put it out. And I think people have got used to that. I think since Life of Pablo, which I think was announced on a Thursday and then came out on a Friday, where it was like, there's going to be a KELA album tomorrow.
Yeah.
Wait, was that the green cover one?
No, it's the orange one, wasn't it?
I can't remember. Maybe it's a different album that he did where it was like, there's an album out by arguably one of the top 3 rappers in the world. It
came out on Tidal, didn't it, or something like that?
I think it could have been part of the whole Tidal.
He had that tune called 20. Is it 20 Hours?
Couldn't tell you.
Dude,
I'm not a huge Kanye fan.
It was the only tune I remembered from the thing, and it was so dope. Yeah.
But I remember since then, I think it shook a lot of people up, going, "Wow, we can just sort of say, here's music, go and consume it," and people don't want to be drip fed little teasers about what's coming. Yeah. It's kind of like, here's something, please go and copy it right now. We'll give you reminders after it's already out.
Yeah, that's right.
That it's out there, rather than
Yeah.
go, it's coming, it's nearly there, it's a week off, it's 3 days off.
Yeah,
here
it's
you
just
go.
done, it's done
No one
now.
gives a shit.
It's done.
Like a week, like you start talking to people about something that's coming 3 or 4 weeks out, which was the orthodoxy, and probably still is the orthodoxy for some people.
Yeah.
Like, you start trying to do that now, week out, people, it's like, just fucking drop it, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, seriously, how much more hype and how much
Yeah,
more
man.
buzz? Like, I don't know if I care about your cosigns anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like Wicked. You're in, not to upset anybody, magazine X.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Let's keep it open. Does anyone really care anymore
Nah.
that you got an article in this magazine
Nah.
that you grew up reading or whatever?
Yes, I think that's
Like,
it.
I don't know if anyone cares anymore, man. It's like, those are the principles we've been operating on for years.
Yeah.
Looked like we were maybe behind the times a little bit last year, still operating on those principles.
Geezer, that's changed now.
And this year we were
Christ.
like, okay, that's
last year
dead.
just gone.
Yeah.
This was for me like we were playing your stuff at events, and I just every 5 fucking farts I would turn around and say, "Who's that?" Ivy Lab.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. And it comes again, Ivy Lab. And then I heard Cake, and I was like, "Oh, for fuck!" You know what I mean? It's like, you know, all these things they just stack up, and I think the momentum on that, it's all about getting things out quick, isn't it? Quick.
I think so, and
Yeah.
that's kind of, it's kind of tragic, but I don't know if we want to be puritanical about it and sort of be like, yeah, you know, this is the way things used to be, and it made a real difference, and music was not better, or the whole.
No, I don't think it's true, because I don't think it's true. I mean, you know, being the ages we are, and I often listen back on my edits of the podcast saying, you know, back in the day or back when or da-da.
Yeah.
But these are the reference points, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we are ultimately talking forward, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
there's no nostalgia in, you know, it's too much of a comfy place. It's not a nice place to be.
Things move on. You
Yeah.
have to adapt how you put your products and your ideas into the public sphere to go along with that.
Yeah,
not
that's
not sort of try and be the resistance.
Yeah.
If you're big enough, you can be the resistance.
Yeah.
We're not big enough to be the resistance. You know, it's like, okay, this is the flow of the river. Let's just keep on with
Well,
it.
with it, yeah, that's right. All right, so what setup do you got? What's your setup? Use Ableton, Logic?
Logic.
Still on Logic. We keep threatening to learn how to use Ableton just because most of our peers use it, and for the purposes of collaborations.
It bothers
you know.
me, man. It really
Yeah.
bothers me.
Bothers
I mean,
you that you're not
jumped-
on Ableton?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I really.
We can use it a bit. Like I've used it to put mix sets together, and like I use it for certain things. Like I've recently started using it more because I did a update of my machine, so I got the new copy of Ableton 10. And
The classic it's in there. You just got to get it out. It's one of those ones, isn't it?
Well, just there's some things that it does like absolutely better than Logic, like how it treats audio samples, you know,
That's
and
insane,
warping
yeah.
and everything. So we'd like to start getting on that, but no, we're still Logic users. I guess it's a overhang from when we were, you know, predominantly producing drum and bass, because I think a lot of people are either Logic or Cubase.
You're surprised, like people that sit here, like a lot of people that are checking this out will vouch. It's like so many people still use Logic.
Yeah,
This ain't like a.
I love Logic.
Yeah.
I don't want to drop using Logic. I wouldn't mind having a bit better skills at Ableton, but there's a lot about working in Logic.
There's a lot of
I
layers.
don't want to drop it either. I mean,
Yeah.
Logic's almost getting better at some point.
I
So,
know.
like,
Yeah.
That's what I hear.
since this whole rappers thing started happening, the idea of doing bigger and quite organised recording sessions with ad-libs and rappers and drop-ins and stuff has been something we haven't had to do in the past. We've had other people record their vocals, or we've done really simple recording sessions for almost like top lines. But trying to do these big rapper-orientated tracks, and the amount of outtakes that these guys do, right? Let's be fair.
Classic.
Let's
on
be
the
fair.
ad-libs,
Like,
et
yeah,
cetera.
exactly. You know, rappers are taking a lot of takes a lot these days.
Yeah. Unless you're Pav from Foreign Beggars, then you're just doing it.
There you go, just
like
in
a
and out. Yeah. You need to have a workstation that treats you well, and I think Logic has got so good at that. Because I used to do a lot of this in Logic, probably about Logic when I was making drum and bass, recording singers and stuff. I used to do this about Logic 5, 7, that kind of era, and then I stopped, and I just thought, it's not us. We're not doing this at the moment. It's just not what we were making at the time, so
Yeah.
we weren't recording.
Yeah.
And now I started recording again. I'm amazed at how good Logic is at doing it. The way it does
Recording vocals, damn right. Yeah, it's fucking great.
It's so amazing the way
It's really good at doing it.
Yeah, the way it stems out tracks
Yeah,
and
100%.
it's so good. And that's something that I found that a lot of people will really buy into Logic for. That's their gateway into it. My gateway into it is just Legacy. I've been using it since the 90s. And I really would like to see us... I'd like to be able to walk into a session and someone have Ableton open and not just be like a spectator and like sort of shouting ideas at them. When a plugin opens up that I know how to use, fine, I'll get involved. But actually putting
tough,
a rate...
innit?
Yeah, it is tough. And I don't want to learn on the job in front of somebody that you've booked a time period to be with there. It's like, this isn't a rehearsal. We weren't meant to be collaborating. And I might have to go get some tuition or something.
You know what it is? It's like knowing. It's like understanding the language but not being able to speak it.